silence.
Okay, let's do it over again.
Sorry.
And for the people who watch us live, we got to do it 10 seconds again. Okay.
This is real life, you know.
It is live. We do have some live listeners that I think like watching the messiness, so there you go.
Do we really?
Yeah, all of them
we
have
do.
a consistent like 25 views. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most of our downloads are definitely audio. Okay, 10 seconds again. Okay. All right. Take it away whenever you're ready, Gerald.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story, once a week. I'm Gerald.
I'm Anais.
I'm Rami.
And I'm Maya.
And this week, we've been reading Stone Mattress by... What's her name? Oh,
Margaret Atwood.
Yes. There's no live listeners, are there? Thank God. I guess I'm going to be editing this episode. This week we've been reading Stone Mattress. What the hell?
You chose the story.
Right. This week we've been reading Stone Mattress by Margaret Atwood. If you haven't read the story yet, pause the podcast, go read the story, and then come back. We follow Verna Pritchard, 5 times married, 5 times widowed, on a cruise to the Arctic. She's there for a vacation, but she meets Bob, whom she recognizes as the boy who impregnated her when she was underage at the Snow Queen's Winter Palace formal. Verna is now out for revenge. That's it.
That is quite simply the quickest summary.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to give too much away.
But that's the thing. So I don't know why we've been tending towards these like cliffhanger summaries. We're about to blow it out of the water in like the next 10 minutes. So
why?
Well, there you go. Anyway,
it's a thing.
It's a summary.
It's totally a thing.
Mm-hmm. Quick question about the summary: was she really married 5 times? Because I counted 4.
Well, maybe 4. She was married a lot.
5th. She certainly mentions 5.
Yeah, I think it's 5. Let me see.
It's either 4 or 5.
Maybe,
I mean, we know she killed them all off.
It
does
really
matter. Oh, I only killed 4 husbands, not 5. I'm not a horrible.
No. It was 4. It was 4 husbands, but the latest one died 5 years ago. That's what it was.
Okay, that's what it was. Top level. How did you like this story? And I'm so curious how the boys like this story.
Well, I liked it a lot.
Oh, awesome, Bob.
Whoa,
I am not a Bob. Ooh, that's a bit
Gerald is Gerald.
Thank you,
I was making a joke.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't very funny.
Oh, you laughed.
I don't.
Rami, how did you like the story?
I liked it a lot, and I actually think it has the potential to become an adapted screenplay. And I'm on sending it to my brother because he is going to be starting school to become a screenwriter. I think this story, I hesitate to even mention this so that no one scoops the idea, but
I mean, there's rights to the story, but
it's brilliant. It is brilliant.
Yeah, but then the author agrees to it, obviously.
It's interesting. I was listening to an interview, and they were talking about how difficult it is to take a book and use it to make a movie because there's so much in the book and you can't cut it down. But that short stories are like perfect for making into feature-length films. And like you, Rami, it was a very visual story for me. Like I was watching it, I was smirking, I was laughing, I felt guilty, and then I felt guilty for feeling guilty, and I was kind of cheering, and I was like, wow, I'm cheering at the wrong things, I'm a horrible person. Like I love this story on every level. Margaret Atwood, she got me with this one.
Yeah.
Have we read a Margaret Atwood story before?
I think we've read one.
Yeah, we've read one. I can't remember which one.
I think.
We read the novel. We read her novel, didn't we?
We did. We read
on the book club.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was my favorite. I've read a lot of novels.
It was not my favorite Atwood.
Yeah. We did The Heart Goes Last, Happy Endings, episode 43, Happy Endings by Margaret Atwood.
I feel like this short story is like one of her best, in my opinion. I really think it's some of her best writing.
And it's part of an anthology of 9 stories. And I was reading a summary, and there's one where like a woman's physical appearance makes people think that she's a vampire. Like just like really bizarre. I'm like, I kind of want to read this anthology. I love Atwood as it is, and then these teasers for her anthology just like put the hook in me hard.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't. The writing is so good in this. She's such a wonderful writer. She has some great turns of phrase. She paints a picture with her words. You're right there, and I just love what she writes about. It's just sort of quirky and in essence quite a simple idea, but she weaves such a great story around it. It's like 7,000 words or something, but it just race straight through it.
Exactly. And one thing I noticed about the writing is, you're right, there was a lot of amazing turn of phrase, just little great meaty quotes, but at the same time, the writing itself felt effortless. It didn't feel pretentious. It didn't feel like the writer's thinking about their writing. It just felt like it unfolded on the page as it was whole cloth. And I really appreciate that. It's been a long time. Like, yeah, we've read Atwood on the show, but before that, I hadn't read Atwood since high school, and I actually think the writing in this short story is better than the writing in Handmaid's Tale, regardless of how much I love that book. I feel I can really see her progression as a writer.
Yeah. Also, she had all these great turns of phrase, and she just, there's like the A plot, but she would weave in all these little comments about like her mother and other people and the husbands that were like not part of the main plot, but were just genius. The women who were knitting and would make little jokes and stuff like that.
It was so spot on too.
Spot on. It's fun, and also she would have these scathing quips about people that were just fun to read.
Yeah, I especially appreciated her assessment of her prey. When she first gets on the boat, because it definitely had like the feeling of like Jacques Cousteau like narrating in the background, like this woman unfolding and looking out at her prey and trying to pick out which one from the herd she's going to pluck first. It was quite amazing.
And it's great how quickly that happened, because the very first paragraph is like, first of all, great opener. She didn't come intending to kill anyone. She was just having a vacation. So it's a great opener. And then it's like, and then it's like she doesn't need money. She's not after men. She's just on vacation. That line is immediately obliterated by the very next paragraph.
Yeah, it was so good. One of the things that I found really interesting is how Verna thought of herself. And I think that some of the best lines come from that cognitive dissonance she has. So she's not a murderer. She's just helping the men along by giving them extra medication and like having really vigorous sex when they've got heart conditions. She's not after money. She just wants to be comfortable. Like there's all this cognitive dissonance about her behavior versus how she pictures her behavior that is both hilarious but also really human. And it made me like her. So even when I realized what was going to happen, I still couldn't hate her. I was kind of like, oh, Verna, I hope you get away with it. Just don't get caught. He kind of deserves it.
Really?
Well, that's funny, because when Maya's saying when it's about this Bob in particular, it's true. I don't have a sympathy for him, but I did feel bad for husbands 1 through 4,
just a little bit.
Yeah, especially because, like, for most of the story, she's talking to herself about how she would just put out the pills twice, which made me laugh. Like, why do men need their wives to tell them to take pills, and they're just like they can't be responsible for their own pills? But like putting out pills and just like encouraging them to eat artery clogging foods, picking guys who she knew were already gonna die soon, and she's like putting it like, it was natural causes, but by the end she's like, call it what it is. Yes, a murderer. Those I was more sympathetic to. She's straight up Black Widow killing men. Like, that was.
But they died happy.
I don't care.
No.
Yes. It's horrible. You don't just. They could have died. They could have died happy of actual natural causes from a woman. Who
I don't know. If
so
I was being well taken care of by some hot young thing, and having great sex and die and lost like maybe 5 years, you know, those are good 5 years well spent. Would you trade 5 of your most decrepit years for like some 5 like banging years with a hot
I mean,
spouse?
That's how Verna justified it. So I don't buy that justification. But the Bob one, I'm definitely like, well, that guy sucked hard, so I'm just gonna look the other way.
So
but
let's
the first
talk
one,
about Bob.
Yeah, he sucks.
Okay, so Gerald says he impregnated her. I'm going to use the rape word. It's stated in the story that if it had happened nowadays, a girl would have called the cops and he would have ended up in jail no matter what story he told. But there's this line right before she goes out there with him where she's thinking about, you know, well, if he recognizes me and apologizes, or if he recognizes me on his own, then I won't kill him. And this question of how much time is long enough, both to forgive somebody and to be held accountable to your actions when you're young. And before she does the deed, she's full of life. And afterwards, it's like she's drained. And I'm just wondering, what does that mean to you? I feel like there's a lot of meaning in there, and I'm just not picking it out.
Wow.
So maybe phrase the question again. The fact that she's drained, like what's the point of her being drained, or the apology part?
So, like part of her, I feel like on some level, part of what's keeping her going is this anger at Bob, this revenge that starts with the Bob creature. And so when she disposes of him, her vitality just goes poof, because she has lived her entire life hating men, killing men, revenge for what she's lost because of Bob. And I just thought it was really interesting. It was almost like this premonition before she offed him. Like this thing, like, I'm not sure if I should do this. And she does it. And then afterwards, she's just like flat. And I thought that was really fascinating. I was just wondering if you guys saw any symbolism or any meaning in that. Because I feel like the author's trying to say something with that. And I'm just not quite smart enough to see it.
I don't think she hates men. Does she hate men? I don't know. I mean, she has a... yeah, I think she has
she's ambivalent.
I think she has a strange relationship with them, but I don't think. Yeah.
I think she sees sex and death as closely linked, because at the end there's that she's talking about how calm of mind, all passion spent, as her third husband used to say so annoyingly after his Viagra sessions. Those Victorians always coupled sex with death, which makes sense if she feels like in a way the old Verna died, which is something she said that night that she was raped by Bob pretty brutally from the sound of it. He had his friend cut, like it was really rough. And, you know, I think there's a sense in which for her, sex leading to death is somehow intertwined, because she like killed her husbands by giving them Viagra when their heart couldn't take it, like, and then having rigorous, like, you know what I mean? And the idea, I think, that Bob should, you know, because like what's one of the things she notices after she kills him? Oh, he had these 5 little bottles of like mini bar scotch. How pathetic. He thought he was going to get laid out here like among these fossils, right? Like everything for her is sex and death, sex and death. So I think it's about that. I think she feels like a version of her died that night.
Yeah. I think her second version of her died this night as well. All the previous killings she did in a much more hands-off way. And this taking a rock to a man's head, that's something that's really brutal. And even if you're already a murderer, that's like a step beyond, you know, and so I feel like part of her died a second death, and now she's truly an old woman, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Or maybe like the energy that was animating her all along is now spent. Like that's why she's so empty. Yeah, that anger.
Yeah, but I definitely noticed that. It was like this poof. It was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also it's a way in which revenge, you know, I mean, I've never had an epic revenge, but, you know, when you read about it in stories and movies, there's always that sort of line where like revenge doesn't ever feel that rewarding. You just feel tired. And maybe that's what this is. It's just that feeling of like, okay, that thing that had me so angry all along. Here it is. I finally did it. I'm just exhausted. And now what? You just sort of feel empty. There's no glee that comes with it. There isn't a finally, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But maybe she won't be killing more men via Viagra now that she has worked out this demon.
I have
this
so
poor
many
man.
thoughts from this conversation.
Yeah,
I hope
Rami?
you're still getting married.
Very interesting. Hope so too.
You're so cute, Rami.
Mm-hmm. So, Rami, so many thoughts. Do you want to share them in the discussion?
Oh yeah, thanks.
He's
for
having all the
asking.
thoughts. He's having like the whole show in his head.
In private. Yeah, well, from the very beginning, how did you describe the writing, Maya? You said it wasn't like snooty or something.
It wasn't pretentious.
Pretentious, yes. So I agree, but I also found it very skillful that although it wasn't pretentious, there was still an elevated vocabulary. Where I found myself having to look words up, but it was really perfectly placed and used. So that's one thing. And then the next one, and each of these I feel like can spawn their own conversation. But do you think that Verna was on this vacation scouting the next potential husband? Because personally, I didn't think she was there poaching. I think she had made her wealth, enough for her to be comfortable, despite what you may think that maybe she's just saying that, but nothing will ever be enough for her just to be satisfied. But I think she was just past this phase, and that she was maybe looking for a fling, and she even said she's not looking for someone who's committed or anything like that. And I didn't get that she was looking for husband number 5 from this trip.
No, I agree with you. Actually, I read this as a woman who's on vacation, maybe a little tired of her profession, but old habits die hard. You're used to, whenever you're in a room surrounded by a bunch of men, used to picking out which ones would be a good potential, and then you no longer do that anymore. And you're getting older, your looks are failing, you're not sure how attractive you are anymore. And then suddenly you find yourself in a room full of men, you're like, could I still get one? Could I still pull one? Yeah, might be fun to see, kind of like old habits kind of thing. I don't think she was looking for husband number 5. And I think that, had Bob not appeared in the picture, she probably would have just like had a one night stand and like called it a night.
Yeah, I think she's always lying to herself when she's like, oh, okay, I'm done. And then, of course, but as soon as the opportunity presents itself, she's not done, right?
It's a habit, it's like a game.
Yeah.
Like if you're a hunter and then like all of a sudden you retire and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of deer, like your mind still goes there. You're like, oh yeah, I could totally get that one, Wish my gun was here.
Yep.
Gerald, am I wrong?
It's not for me to say, really. I'm not a middle-aged woman. Yes, that's a shock, isn't it?
Yeah, and the underlying sentence there was "thank God."
I'm saying nothing.
Oh, Gerald.
The next point that generated some thought for me was made by Anais when you had said that you kind of felt pity for the previous husbands. I think others shared your thoughts. Now, I'm not going to go as far as saying that they deserved their fate, but I think, for one, these, it says a lot about the husbands who would be the type to marry, an attractive younger girl, presumably much younger. Secondly, because of maybe the probable age difference, it's probably not their first marriage. So it seems like these previous husbands were the type that were just after trophy wives. And I think because of that, they maybe weren't the best judge of character to begin with. And that decision that they made to marry this person led to their ultimate demise.
I mean, I think you're right that they had some deep character flaws that she exploited. So it's sort of like all of their follies led to their own death. But also, you shouldn't be exploiting people's follies to kill them, right? Like, she's still here, the bad person with the bad intent. Like, I agree. It's not only, you said that they probably have past wives. She straight up went after some married men. I don't know if all of them have been married, but at least 2 of them had been, because she was like, she learned, that ex-wives.
Such a pain in the butt, ex-wives,
and they stick like burrs. You just can't get rid of them.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I love that line. So good.
They're all, these guys suck, but you still can't exploit people's flaws to kill them.
Do they really suck? I mean, like, at least a couple of the husbands she met when she was their physical therapist.
Yeah, but they were married.
Not those ones.
No, I think there was overlap.
Some of them were married. I'm not talking about the married ones. I'm talking about the unmarried ones. Like, you meet somebody who puts on all their charms and is nice and is sweet and listens to you and doesn't talk too much and is everything that you think a woman should be. And you're going to marry her. And can I fault them for that? No, we're human.
Yeah, no, we're human. But I'm just saying, to Rami's point, like, what are you looking for in a wife and why is a little bit like, you can side-eye that. Like, okay, buddy, I understand you're a product of your culture, but try to do a little more.
Is having a trophy wife really all that bad? Like, if the trophy wife is consenting, she's like, hey, I want to be a trophy wife, I'm going to train myself in how to be the perfect trophy wife, and you're a man with tons of money and you're like, I want a trophy wife, and you go and you find a trophy wife, is that really such a bad thing? Like, a good trophy wife is hard work. I've met some of these women working in yacht clubs. They're younger, they have to be well educated, they have to go to dinner parties and talk about a gazillion different topics that they have no interest in and be able to hold these conversations, listen to men babble on like at length about random crap they're not interested in. Like, that is not a job that I would like put my name in the pool for. So
we're not criticizing the trophy wives. I think Rami maybe can elaborate here. What Rami was saying was a little bit like he's like taking a slightly critical look to the kinds of guys that's what they want out of their relationship. This isn't an indictment against the wives. It's a little bit like, dude, what are you after here? Right, Rami?
Yes, I think when you commit to someone with those types of priorities, it shouldn't be surprising that the person might not have upstanding moral.
So my question is, what do you think these men were looking for when they married her?
A trophy wife, basically.
Which is, what is it that they were going for? Because when I think about men,
physical pleasure,
falling for
appearance, it might be arm candy, that sort of thing. What's the word when you're showing off things?
See, when I read about her being a physical therapist, what I saw was men that were in vulnerable position health-wise. Here's this young woman who's making them feel alive, who's listening to their problems, who's nursing them back to health, who makes them feel masculine and like they have a future. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that those particular men, now I'm not talking about the other ones, but the ones that she met when she was working as a physical therapist, I don't necessarily think those men were just looking for eye candy. I think they were looking for emotional support and to feel like they still had some life left in them.
Yeah, I guess I think almost all of them were, I don't know. It just seemed like she was going for older men with other responsibilities and was pulling them away from them, but it's not clear. She doesn't go through each one. This one was married, this one wasn't. But the way that it's painted in the story, they were not doing this because, you know what I mean? I'm trying to find the exact passage where it's like, they're not doing this just because they're looking for love late in life. It's not that narrative.
No, but I mean, this is the difference between men and women, though. Like, okay, I don't think that men necessarily go into a flirting situation thinking, I'm looking for the love of my life. They go into a flirting situation thinking, this is fun, this girl's cute, I feel alive, this is like, maybe I can take it someplace. Like, it's just a different mindset. And I don't think that's a bad mindset. Gerald, smirking. Can you put your your senior our mind like melt in here and like let us know like who's right and who's wrong? Like when you were flirting with some woman, are you thinking I'm going to get a trophy wife, or are you thinking this flirting's fun?
I think many men see it as transactional, and there's
True.
passage, where she says that she had her college tuition paid because she consented to having daily afternoon sex with some wealthy person. And
and he was married. That was definitely like a call girl situation.
Yeah,
that wasn't a husband.
All of these, the rise of the sugar dating apps and sugar daddy apps and websites and all that sort of thing.
You seem to know a lot about this.
Well,
he's preparing, for when he's a millionaire FBI agent.
Can you pass on some of those URLs? Or just for research purposes.
Oh, Gerald.
No, it's a real problem, and it's ended a lot of marriages. There's a lot of news reports about it.
I would imagine, not that I would know, but I would imagine that a more senior gentleman, who had been in a marriage for some time, might enjoy the flirt, the attention, the flirtation, the interest. If some younger woman shows interest in him, he'd be quite excited by that. I would imagine. It
doesn't necessarily mean that they're instantly like going to like the dark side of their brain. It's just like human nature. And maybe, as you are a senior gentleman, in my youth, I danced quite a bit, and I was frequently, using that particular scenario to my advantage. When you're a dancer, your job isn't just to wiggle your butt on stage. It is to flatter men, make them feel comfortable, listen to them yada, 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 yada about their marriage, about their kids. That is your job. And then send them home to their wife and make them feel better for it, Right. And so, maybe, I'm a little less judgmental in this situation because it's just so common. I consider it just human nature. When you've been with somebody for a really long time and then someone that's young and cute and attractive and funny shows you attention, you're going to be flattered. Whether or not you act on it, that's another thing entirely. But the majority of human beings are going to be flattered and are going to flirt back, at least a little bit.
So going back to the text, one of the things that Atwood does is, so we're having this debate because of the way that she writes about all of these men. She never comes out and says exactly how you're supposed to feel about them, but she puts in all of these little tags, which she does all the time, because I had written in my notes, screw Bob, I hate him so much. Even before it was revealed that he raped her, I already hated this guy. Just based on how she was describing him, there was something.
And, there's many Bobs.
Yeah. But the Bob, there was just something about the way that she was describing him, the way that he interacted with her, the assumptions that he kept making, that I just didn't like him, even before the big reveal of the rape, which, again, goes into, but Gerald just said, really? Because like I said, she doesn't ever tell you how to feel about anything, but she puts in all of these signifiers, depending on your point of view, how you feel is going to come to light, which also happened with the Home for Unwed Mothers. I was seething at that, but reading it, I realized people who agree with that system wouldn't be. They'd be like, what a reasonable solution. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't tell you how to feel about it, which I think is also what's happening with these husbands. Yeah.
I think the reason why I instantly didn't side with her is because I consider the narrator to be an unreliable narrator. She doesn't have a good view of herself. She doesn't have a good view of her actions. So I don't think the way that she sees her partners is necessarily honest either. I think that she's lying to herself about a lot of stuff in order to make what her actions not seem so bad to her. And she's really fascinating in the way she does this. Like, you actually see like her mental gymnastics in the narration, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah,
it's a consequence of cognitive dissonance.
Oh, totally.
And those mental gymnastics are at the fore when she's like working her way up to saying, call it. murder. Like she's like, I'm just gonna throw that word there. You know, okay, I guess that's what it is. Okay, you know, it's just yes, lady, it's murder, right?
Hit a guy in the head with a rock. It's murder.
Yeah, but she was talking about the way that she killed her ex-husbands at that point.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. And also, she's so smart. It's like so scary. When she started packing all his stuff into her backpack, I didn't immediately realize her plan was to make it seem like Bob had been, you know, like
Was
using
still
his
there?
towels, hanging up the baseball cap of this woman. The
It really was brilliant. You know what's even
She's
scarier?
almost like
Margaret
the
Atwood
character
thought
in
of
Gone
that.
Girl.
And that has never been in any kind of like movie that I've seen. So this
Gone
came out of
Girl,
Margaret
Gone
Atwood's
Girl.
brain.
True, Gone Girl, yeah.
Okay. True Gone Girl. I don't know. Do you want to marry Margaret Atwood after reading this story?
Hey. Yeah. She's peachy.
Smart.
Don't cross
As long
her.
as you die happy, right?
Yeah, she was smart ladies. But yeah. Be careful.
I'm sure she could find a way to ruin your life without killing you.
I mean,
This
she's
smart.
genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Oh, thank you for the laugh. I needed that.
So something else that struck me, it's I guess a question about morality that Maya posed that we didn't really talk about accountability and whether Bob should be held accountable, and should people generally be held accountable, like even for actions that they committed in their youth after many years have passed. I think my personal view on it is I think people should always be held accountable. Obviously, not the same level of accountability. That's why there's a juvenile justice system and all that. But I think, even though laws in the United States have limits on them and so forth, and I think probably other countries too, but I think people essentially should still be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Statute of limitations is I think most developed countries have that.
They have it for most things, but then we have cases of like 98-year-old Nazis going to trial.
Mm-hmm.
But then whether that excuses vigilante justice, I wouldn't condone that, obviously, and not trying to again excuse Verna's actions.
Yeah, no one's trying to
cold-blooded murder. Yeah.
Do you think Verna would have killed him if he hadn't smirked? I think that was like a trigger.
Well, she said she wouldn't if he apologized.
And he did not apologize. He even smirked.
He smirked.
I think there's a sense in which he hasn't changed that much. There's still an entitlement. There's still an assumption to women's bodies that he has around him, which is why I wasn't liking him, the way he was treating everything, which just like, if he had at any point come across as a changed or different man, maybe she would have changed her mind, but he seemed very much the same.
Mm-hmm.
The way he says when she introduces herself and he says Atwood writes, Bob doesn't miss a beat. I thought there was something familiar about you, he says. He's actually smirking. It's just that he's actually smirking is just such a clever little line.
Yeah.
There are so many good lines. I'm like going through here trying to figure out like which ones, because there were just so many amazing lines in here. And the one I'm looking for right now is when he slides into the seat after her, like the day after they've met, and he's like already like staked his claim.
Yeah.
And it was slimy, it was greasy, but it was also really just honest. Like I've seen that.
Yeah.
And it was just so well done. Oh my goodness. Margaret Atwood. Oh, I love you. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
I just looked Margaret Atwood up on Wikipedia, and she's won a number of Canadian awards.
Oh yeah, she's like one of the most well-known authors in the world.
Okay, another thing, Maya, you said that you felt that after killing Bob, that a second Verna died a second time or something like that. And I would pose the question, is it a death or a rebirth, that killing Bob kind of reinvigorated her, allowed her to shed herself of, the past experiences, and it gave her some closure.
You realize you just asked that question of a Buddhist, right? So death and rebirth are always the same thing in my head. Like, that's just where my head goes.
In the non-Buddhist sense, I guess.
But, like, when you have a death, it is a rebirth. Like, that is the definition of death. Whether you're reborn into heaven or whether your personality is reborn, whether past sins have been stripped away, it's always a point of change. And I feel like up until this point, she's been leading a very inauthentic life where she can't see herself. She's doing a lot of plastic surgery. It's all about how she looks, her facade, staying young, looking good. And then after this point, she's just Verna. And in some ways that's a deflation. In some ways that's a relief, like maybe like a sigh. But it's definitely very like stark to me. Like her tone changed. I feel like the story tone changed in a really dramatic way.
Yeah.
Anything else for you guys?
No, I think I kind of ran through my notes. Just
Gerald didn't say a whole lot this episode.
No, I don't know why. No, I just liked it. I liked it. I liked her writing. I liked the story. It wasn't, to me, there was very little depth to it. It was an interesting story. It was very cleverly constructed, and I liked the way she covered up for the death. That's very good. I should be making notes on that. And that for fiction, obviously. And but yeah, there's not much more to say about it, really. To be honest. You
didn't find that there were a lot of layers. That's an interesting observation because we've just all been praising it. But as far as symbolism, do you guys, like, I'm trying to think, did I see any symbolism? I mean, aside from the obvious icebergs, but that's just so blatant. It's just to be nauseating.
Yeah, the whole was more beneath the surface. Yeah,
that's just annoying. Like Margaret's above that.
And the title was great.
The title was great. I feel like something about those rocks. So,
and also the mattress is where she kills so many people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The whole sex and death thing.
Definitely.
Dead for a long
and
time.
She kills him with a mattress. Even though, like, she killed the other man on a mattress, she kills him actually with the mattress.
Yeah.
It's like, because I know Margaret does that stuff. She puts in symbolism. It's just a matter of teasing it out, Yeah. I love the title of this story, by the way. I think the title is just kind of brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, the title itself is probably like the biggest like symbol and thread throughout the whole plot. The icebergs, putting everything in the chilly north was just like beautiful, scenic, set the right mood.
Yeah, and she's had to be very cold. Like after her rape, she became a cold person. That's how she was able to do all this stuff. And so it makes sense that she would thaw out in the Arctic.
Yeah. She can have a bikini because, some superficial puckering in old age. Just like the line. There was just something.
That's the only thing you have to worry about, girl.
I know, right?
I'm just like, really?
Yeah. Great. I'm ready to rate.
I'm ready too.
Okay. Nice and easy. 6 for me. 6.
5.5 for me. Brilliant. Lovely.
6 for me. 6.
5.5 for me.
Okay.
I'll read it again. Will I read it again? I don't know. I might read it again. I'd recommend it, but not as an example of great literary work. It was a good story.
I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I can see a lot in it. I think this is a story you could write a paper from, but I probably wouldn't read it again.
Even the picture used in the New Yorker, it looks like a painting. It's a photograph. It's a phenomenon.
Did anybody else have a chuckle at the cartoons that they chose to use for this story? Some of them were quite brilliant. I wish I had it up on my screen, but there was a couple times I looked over and I read the cartoon. I was like, oh, somebody had fun pairing the cartoons with this story this week.
I like the clown one. So it's like a party with a bunch of
Oh,
people.
yes.
There's a clown on the couch. Someone comes up to me and goes, I know you probably hear this all the time, but I've got a great idea for a balloon animal.
That one killed me. That one killed me.
Are they intentionally paired with the story, or is it selected at random? Because
I think that they put some intention behind it, because typically they'll put them in spots that need a little bit of comic relief, or it'll be like some symbol that also is like some thought that's also reoccurring in the story. One second, I don't have them up, but there was one, I think it was like the third one that I thought was particularly
The one with the
wonderful.
gangsters, with the guy that's blindfolded? Or
That one was really good. That one was really good. I'm like, where's the link? Because the comics were awesome.
yeah. Well, we have the link in the show notes if people want to look at them.
Yeah, just, make a point. If you're reading the story and from the show notes, just make a point to like glance over every once in a while, because they're kind of awesome this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we submitting for next week? I'm going to be submitting 6 Feet of Country by Nadine Gordimer.
Okay. I'm submitting A Rich Man by Edward P. Jones.
I'm submitting, once again, The Dinner Party by Joshua Ferris, which was suggested by one of our previous guests, Colette Sartor.
Very good.
Oh, Anais, now I'm singing Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh dear.
It's taking all my restraint.
Okay. Quite a short quiz this week. But it's a geography quiz, you'd be pleased to know.
Oh, man.
On various.
You just really didn't want to read Nadine this week, did you?
It's multiple choice, so everyone has a chance, of course. And we're going Anais, Maya, and Romy. Anais, the Pacific Ocean. All about ocean. Well, it's not all about ocean. The Pacific Ocean. How big is it in kilometers squared? Is it 158,000?
We're Americans. What the hell?
Wikipedia is American, but it's anyway. 158,000 kilometers squared, 168,000 kilometers squared, 178,000 kilometers squared.
178,000 kilometers squared.
Wrong! It's 168.
Imagine that wrong.
Yeah. Who knew?
I don't even know what a kilometer is.
Off by 10,000 kilometers squared.
Yeah, I know. It's so close. It's so far. Maya, the Atlantic Ocean. You're going to hate me. The Atlantic Ocean. How big is that? Is it 85,000 kilometers squared, 95,000 kilometers squared, or 105,000 kilometers squared? 85, 95, or 105?
You said the Atlantic?
The Atlantic Ocean, yeah. You've got that. It's next to you.
I don't even know what a kilometer is. Is it like 1.7 miles? Is it 0.7 miles? Like, what the hell? I'm going to go with the lower number. The lowest
85.
number. Yeah, because it's skinny.
Of course you are, because that's correct. Hurrah!
Thank you. It's a skinny ocean.
Yeah. And Rami, the Indian
the
Ocean.
Indian Ocean, yep.
I think we're just out of time for this week's quiz. That's what I'm thinking about.
Are you looking at Wikipedia? You bad person. No, not much. Is the area of the Indian Ocean 60,000 kilometers squared, 70,000 kilometers squared, or 80,000 kilometers squared?
70.
Yeah, you'd be correct.
Oh God, I have to pee. That's still funny.
Well read.
No, there's one ocean left. Get ready.
I'm ready.
Well, we're having a bit of a change now because we're going up into the Arctic.
Oh, great.
At what latitude does the Arctic Circle sit?
At what latitude does the Arctic Circle sit?
Yeah, lat is flat.
Latitude
so it's
and longitude.
Yeah.
So
it's my question.
0.
No,
it's yours.
Zero makes
I thought it was mine.
That's the equator. Okay.
No, it's Anise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for goodness sake. It's not difficult.
I got excited.
Right. It's certainly not 0 anyway.
Geography Viagra.
Geography Viagra. What the hell? Right, back to circle. Does it start at 66 degrees 33 minutes, 66 degrees 43 minutes, or 66 degrees 53 minutes?
Wow, you can't even give her degree options. She has.
I know, right?
The middle
Accept
one.
this quiz.
The middle one.
I'm afraid you're wrong again, Annise.
All right, I'm not running.
Obviously, it's
That's the
66
funniest
degrees
thing I've ever
33
seen.
minutes. It's, you know,
You guys are gonna get some degrees as well, so
why do you not know this stuff? This is
Because I went to the American school system. Okay, give me my question.
okay, Maya. To be defined as the Arctic, the average temperature in July has to be below, and here I'm doing it Fahrenheit because you're American. It has to be below 40 Fahrenheit, 45 degrees Fahrenheit, or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Which of those? Average temperature in July has to be below 40, 45, or 50 Fahrenheit.
40.
Wrong! It's
Wow.
50. Yeah, I know, it's quite warm, isn't it, really?
Well, it does warm
Rami.
up in spring.
Yeah, well, in July, summer, but anyway. Rami, stromatolite, the rock with which she killed Bob, dates from when? 3.7 billion years ago, 4.2 billion years ago, or 4.7 billion
No
years
fair.
ago?
It was said in the story.
Well, it
No, it
was
wasn't.
said in the story, but the geologist in the story said only 1.9 or something.
1.6.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Wikipedia
Wait,
says something different.
Give me the numbers again.
3.7 billion, 4.2 billion, or 4.7 billion years ago.
3.7.
Is the correct answer.
Ah, see all that CIA training.
Yeah, yes to know. Right, and you're lucky because the tiebreaker would have been to tell me how big the Arctic Ocean was in kilometers squared. So,
And that is when Gerald would have been strangled somehow, mysteriously, through the computer. It would have been a fascinating scientific experience.
so, Rami, what story are we going to be reading next week?
Next week, we will be reading The Dinner Party by Joshua Ferris.
Hurrah.
Okay, but before you go, take a leisurely internet cruise and visit literaryroadhouse.com. You can sample as many episodes as you like and leave as many comments and opinions as your heart desires. The Literary Internet Cruise also makes stops at our Twitter at Lit Roadhouse or to our Facebook group, The Literary Roadhouse Readers, or you can leave voice messages on our website. Looking for a longer literary vacation? Check out the Literary Roadhouse Book Club to discuss a full novel every month. This Friday, we publish our discussion of Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Benn. Also, we'd love to see the Northern Lights and walk on glaciers for, like literary purposes. Support our totally literary expedition and podcasting expenses at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the person you'd like to exact revenge on, as a warning. Until next time, read a good story.